I'm Thabo Kumaran, a senior research scientist in hydrology and located in Parkville office of Digita. In this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about the SafeGuage for dairy grains tool, as in terms of the capability of the tool, accessing and downloading the tool, and provide an overview of the dairy module within the SafeGuage dairy and grains, and also show some examples as in terms of using the tool in dairy farms. The capability of the tool, the SafeGuage for dairy and grains, is a user-friendly tool that qualitatively assesses the potential risk of off-site movement of nitrogen in drainage, runoff, and as denitrification as a result of on-farm management. So it is developed to be used as part of the training for advisors within the FERTCare project and also advisors who undertake the training. So the tool assists in calibrating the advisors' ability to identify high-risk nitrogen loss situations in dairy and cropping within high rainfall zones. So basically it allows comparison of nitrogen loss risk across different locations, fertilizer application, and other animal and pasture or cropping management strategies. So the tool development was funded by Australian government and Department of Economic Development, Jobs, Transport and Resources in Victoria, with in-kind support from Fertilizer Australia and wider fertilizer industry. Now moving to the accessing and downloading, the tool can be accessed and downloaded from FERTCare website, or the users will be sent with a web link. However, at the time of this recording, the tool resides in University of Queensland website as shown here in this slide, and later on it will be transferred to the FERTCare website. So when you look at the web link that will be provided to you, or you go and download from the FERTCare site, the first page will look like this as shown on this slide, where you will see step-by-step procedure to download, to extract files, and also to run the program. So after you download to a preferred location, it will be a zip file as shown on the top right hand screen. So the zip file has to be extracted. So you will use the extracting files using your right mouse and extract the files to the same folder. So once you extract all the files, the folder will look like this with several files as shown on the right bottom screen. So once extracted, then you use the right mouse again and click on the index HTML file. So once you, when you open the index HTML file, you can open it using any of the browsers that you have got in your PC or your laptop. However, the program works better with Google Chrome or the Safari or Firefox compared to the Internet Explorer. If you're using Internet Explorer, then there are one or two message boxes come up, and you say yes and yes again for the two questions. The tool can be used online or offline, meaning that first time when we use the tool, it has to be, you have to have an internet connection so that you can download and save files for the program. But then subsequently, the program can be used online or offline. However, when you are using offline, it's always has to be the same web browser that has to be used. Now moving to the dairy program. So the dairy module is located within the SafeGuage dairy and grains tool. So when you open the program first time, you will see this is the web page you'll be able to see. So it has got dairy and grains as different tabs. So in this presentation, I'll be talking to you about the dairy module and the usage of the dairy modules in detail. In the presentation 2, Kirsten Barlow will talk about the grain module. So I'll go to the explanation of dairy module and how it was formulated. So the SafeGuage dairy module has got a database of runoff, drainage, and soil moisture for a range of climate stations and soils. And it also has got an existing function for pasture yield response to nitrogen applications, and also an existing database of dairy supplementary feed, fertilizer mixes, and their nitrogen content. So basically the users will have to put input details with regard to location, soil, animal intake, pasture grazing management, and fertilizer effluent details. And then once the green boxes are filled, these details will be fed through the lookup table, the database, the model, and also the fertilizer effluent nitrogen content details. And then after it processes these details, it will give the daily nitrogen surplus as the results, together with the daily runoff, drainage, soil moisture for that particular location. Then using the block characteristics, the daily risk in terms of the nitrogen losses will be rated as 3 result sheets, which I will show in detail in the next slide. Now we'll go to the how to use the tool. So first time when you open this the tool, so it will have the dairy and the grain module. So we'll choose the dairy module, and because we didn't have an assessment saved already, then we have to select the new assessment here. So in terms of the assessment, we just give a name, dairy 1, and say OK. So this will be then the so this will be the screen that you will be seeing. So in the first tab, we will choose Victoria as the state. You can use 5 states here, excludes Queensland at the moment. So I have selected Victoria, and then weather station. When you scroll over your mouse, you will be able to see the location of the weather stations that we have used. So you will get an idea of the place of the site you have selected is near to which of the climate stations. So in this case, I have selected Fish Creek, and then you choose an year. So in this case, I'm going to choose 2010. But also you can select whether the year that you are looking for an assessment is an average year or a wet year or a dry year. Or if you think the selected year is going to be similar to 2010 condition, then you will select the 2010 as the year. Then the soil can be also selected. There are different soils that that will be brought up in the drop-down menu. In this one, I'm selecting DY321. Again, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll be able to see the basic characteristics of this particular soil. So you will know based on the characteristics which soil to choose from. So I'm choosing DY321. Once that's finished, we'll move to the next tab where the slope, I'm saying it's less than 1%, And then the water course, it's less than 10 meter distance. Depth of the groundwater, say less than 1 meter. And the block area, I'm going to say it's about 5 hectares. In terms of the pasture animal management, okay, pasture type, there is only one pasture type in the tool at the moment, ryegrass pasture. And then the legume type, I'm saying white clover. You can select either white clover or lucerne. A percentage of legume mix, say about 9%. And the ground cover, I'm going to say it's mostly about 80%. And then the last grazing rotation details. So what happened in the last grazing rotation? Say the how many days, say about 30 days since the last grazing. And we have to give the date of the grazing. In this case, I'm going to give August, 7th of August. And then the number of cows went into the block, say 69. And the pre-grazing dry mass, 3640 kilogram dry matter per hectare. Amount of nitrogen that was applied to produce this dry mass, I'm going to say about 23 kilogram nitrogen. And then we can add the concentrates that was fed to the cows. So you can use average concentrate, or you can use the drop-down menu to select concentrate type from. So I use the average concentrate, and the amount, say about 3 kilogram, and it's a dry weight. Similarly, how much forage and what forage? So I'm choosing average hay, and again, say 3 kilogram per cow per day. So once we finish the last grazing rotation, you're moving to the current grazing rotation that you want to assess the details for. So the grazing date, maybe we'll see, select as 9th of September. Number of cows, we are not changing that, say 69. Target pre-grazing dry mass, if you know the number of cows that are going to go into the paddock, we should be knowing the target pre-grazing dry mass. In this case, I'm saying 4,900 because it's a spring season, it can produce more pasture. So if in this case, if the last grazing and current grazing are in the same season, I'm going to say no, because they are in the previous one was in August, so it is winter, and now it is in spring. Usual pre-grazing dry mass for this season, how much usually the farmer gets. So I'm just using 4,800 kilogram, a bit less than what is targeted. And the amount of nitrogen applied, say I'm putting 30 kilograms because it's the pasture production is much higher. Then again, you can add the concentrate fed to the cows. I'm going to say it's same as previous one, and then hay is also same as the previous one. Then we are going to say when the next grazing is likely to happen. In this case, I'm going to say maybe in November, so it's about like 14th of November. So we have entered the grazing details, and we are moving to now fertilizer management. So you can add fertilizers as many as you like using the drop-down menu. In this case, I'm using urea, and then the date applied, I'm going to say it's 8th of the August, probably 27th. Make sure the date applied as fertilizer should fall within the grazing period. Otherwise, that fertilizer will not be counted in terms of the nitrogen losses. And the amount, say 200 kilogram of nitrogen, 200 kilogram of urea per hectare applied. Then the fertilizer type for the current one, again, I'm going to choose the urea, which is also the common type of fertilizer used. And the application time, in this case, maybe 10th of October. and then the amount applied, I'm going to say about 300 kilogram of urea in this case, and then the effluent management, if there is any effluent management happen during that grazing periods. And in this case, I'm putting effluent liquid. When was that applied? It is in, say, August, 30th of August, and then amount, say, 2 megaliter per hectare because it's a liquid. And then the effluent as dry, solid. In the current grazing season, I'm going to say it was applied in 1st of November. And the amount, say 300 kilogram of the effluent per hectare. Now I'm going to save the details, what I have put in, and then use the calculate risk button to calculate the risk. So the risk is shown in 3 presentations. You can see the first one as in terms of gauge. So the gauge shows what is the risk of the nitrogen losses happening in surface water, and then the groundwater in the bottom gauge, and then the denitrification in the bottom gauge. So in this slide, you can also compare what is the likely nitrogen loss risk in the last grazing period, which is on the left, and the current grazing period, which is on the right. So it looks like in this assessment, the groundwater, the losses in the groundwater is moderate, but others mostly looks lower risk. In the second, the mid presentation, you will also see what is the daily risk. So it shows how big is the risk. So in the first one in the gauge, you saw it was the cumulative number of days when the risk conditions are present. In the middle screen, you see the daily risk assessment as in daily. Again, you'll be able to compare with the last with the current rotation in terms of the losses in all 3 pathways. And then in the bottom screen, you'll also be able to see the nitrogen summary as in numbers, but the numbers are only indicative, they are not real numbers. So it shows all the input and the outputs as in terms of nitrogen. So once you finish the assessment 1, in this tool we can also save up to 10 assessments, but you can only compare two assessments at a time. So if now I'm going to show how we can create another assessment and compare that assessment with what we have done as dairy 1. So I'm going to close this and then use the back button to go to the first page. So what I'm going to say is that I just copy the dairy 1 assessment and say that name it as dairy 2, and then on that I'm going to just change couple of the input details. So for example, I'll change the weather station as maybe Warrigal, and then maybe the soil as 342, and then save that again as the assessment 2, and then I go to the calculation of risk. See, you can see there are 2 assessments shown here, dairy 2 and dairy 1. So now to compare, you just click on the dairy 1. So now the dairy 1 and dairy 2 are compared. So the black text and black arrows are for the dairy 2, and the blue arrows and blue text are for the dairy 1. So you can see particularly the risk in terms of the drainage. The risk was higher in dairy 2 compared to the dairy 1. Similarly, the daily risk also can be compared between the two assessments, again for the current and the last grazing season. So it's the last grazing, current grazing. This is dairy 2 on the top and dairy 1 in the bottom. And similarly for the nitrogen summary, you can see for the dairy 2, dairy 1 assessments, and again for the last and the current grazing season. So at a time, only 2 comparisons can be made, but however, you can save up to 10 assessments in the laptop or computer that you are using. So with that, I finish showing the how to use the tool. So for more details, you can always go back to the website where we will upload a user manual for looking for details, and also for details or more clarification, contact me as given in this slide, my contact details. Thank you very much.